Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bulldog Strength, the Alumni Playbook. I am Rachel Roach, former volleyball and tennis student athlete and current Associate Director of Athletics and Senior Women Administrator. We're excited that you're here for the first event in the most recent iteration of the Bulldog Bench. As you may or may not know, we now consider you to be a member of the Bulldog Bench when you give any amount to athletics, whether to the general fund, a campaign cause, or a specific team. By doing so, you'll receive exclusive access to our athletics e-newsletter and invitations to special events just like this one. In addition, the Champion Circle is our newest giving society for donors who choose to support any athletics fund with a gift of $1,000 or more. However you give, we are glad you're part of our team. Now let's meet tonight's moderator and panelists. We are thrilled to have Dr. Kelly Dries as tonight's moderator. She has been the Executive Director of the Office of Career and Professional Development at the University of Redlands since August 2018, but also brings a student-athlete perspective to tonight's conversation. Kelly, take it away.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you everybody for being here. Good evening. It's wonderful to be a part of this event, and I'm excited to be your moderator this evening. As Rachel mentioned, I was a student athlete myself during my undergraduate experience playing field hockey at East Stroudsburg University in Pennsylvania. And I must say that that experience for me is something that still impacts me. When I think about the skills I developed, the fuel for me in terms of my ambition, my drive, my work ethic, I rely on it daily in my life. So I'm thrilled to be here this evening to learn from our outstanding lineup of panelists. I did a little bit of research on each of you, and I'm excited to get to soak up some of your insight and wisdom this evening. We're going to start by having them each introduce themselves and share a little bit about themselves, both what they're currently up to, but also what they studied at the University of Redlands, what sport they played. And I'm going to shake it up and do things backwards alphabetically. So Lauren, can you kick us off and give your intro?
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Villanueva. I graduated in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in global business, and I played for the women's tennis team. After graduation, I interned at Esri, which is a software mapping company headquartered in Redlands. And I was also an assistant tennis coach for 3 seasons after graduating. I'm no longer coaching, but I still work at Esri as a project manager on the Managed Cloud Services team. So we host and manage Esri software on behalf of our customers. And I am based in the Redlands office, but working from home in Ukaipa.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. Jessica.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Fields, and I graduated to class of 2020. So that was with the whole pandemic and everything. So I didn't really get to have a traditional graduation. I studied biology and I minored in Spanish. And I was on the track and field team at Redlands, and I did 100 and 400 meter hurdles. I miss it so much. And then what I do for work currently is I'm a medical assistant. I tutor, and I'm also an admin at local COVID test clinics here in my hometown of Las Vegas. And I'm also currently applying to medical school. So it's kind of like my gap year. So I'm working and applying.
So you're basically doing everything, Jessica. Sounds like you're up to a lot. Wonderful. Billy.
Hey, buddy. I'm Colonel Billy Pope from the United States Air Force, Redlands class of 2001. So celebrating 20 years this year. Unbelievable. But so I had the great privilege of playing baseball at Redlands for 4 years. I was a pitcher. You won't exactly find my name in any record books. I wasn't exactly, an amazing athlete. As a matter of fact, it was right around that time when we started to publish a lot of our, things on the internet and the scores of the games and those kinds of things. So I'm worried about any of the research that was done, because if you Google my name and Redlands baseball, you literally only find one result now, and it's a game where I got shelled against UC San Diego. I think I gave up 9 runs in 2 innings or something like that. That's the only surviving web-based entry of my time at Redlands. But I subscribe to the idea that you don't want to peak too early. So things have worked out pretty well since. Now I'm the chief of the Future Operations Division at United States Cyber Command out here at Fort Meade in Maryland. And so it's our responsibility to do things like protect the presidential elections from malign influence and cyber threats, defend the nation against cyber attacks, our critical infrastructure, and our military forces. And so a lot of the things that I learned on the baseball field at Redlands directly translate, and I look forward to talking about some of those tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Billy. Excited to hear more about those. All right, last but certainly not least, Alex.
Thanks. Hey, no one told me that there's going to be a Harvard-educated colonel that's at the front line of like a really topical major issue in the world today. And, so I feel justified. I did take a suggestion. I looked up Billy Pope, Redlands baseball, and the headline, he wasn't lying. Headline is baseball creams Redlands. So there you go. He gets that. He's got everything else. I'm Alex Strand. I'm class of 2007. I played water polo and swam for 4 years. My sister swam and dove the 4 years before me, so it wasn't that original of an idea that I had gone to Redlands. I studied international relations, which at the time, I don't know if it still exists, but it's a mix of government, economics, and history. I am now a sports TV producer, currently working for Amazon Prime Video. I'm in charge of our NFL coverage. I'm doing some Australian swimming coverage coming up in the coming months, and really sort of odds and ends that pop up here and there. Went to Fox Sports for a little bit, much of the same there. And I'd share a memory, but Tom and Leslie are here, and I don't know if they want to know all that we did while we were at school.
Awesome. We might have to get to that later, Alex. We'll see. All right. When thinking back about your time at the University of Redlands, why was being a Bulldog student athlete important to your overall student Redlands experience? And I'm going to kick that over to Billy to start us off with.
Thanks. Right out of the gate. So I think all of the things that you would expect kind of come to mind, right? The ideas of teamwork and camaraderie and grit and discipline and pride. I think those are the things that really stand out as the paramount considerations. But for me, like I kind of alluded to, all jokes aside, my story wasn't exactly typical. I wasn't recruited to play baseball. I came to the university really to study computer science. As a matter of fact, as I was leaving high school, my high school coach told me it was likely I wouldn't play baseball again, right? And I filled out an information card like all freshmen do, and I said that I played baseball in high school. Coach Ken Miller at the time reached out to me, and he said, "Hey, I hear you're 6'4" and left-handed. I think we can work with this." And so I went out in the fall, kind of fell into an atmosphere that I really liked. Kind of developed, right, as all 18 to 22-year-old people do, and really found not only some success on the field, but success in ways that I never really anticipated. In the military, we subscribe to the idea that we fight for something that's bigger than ourselves. And that's not unique to us. I think if you look at what all of our teams do, and not just the sports teams, but the organizations and really just in a tight-knit community that is the University of Redlands writ large, I think you find that purpose that's bigger than you and opportunities that are bigger than your individual contribution. So as I look back fondly after 20 years, those are some of the things that stand out to me.
Yeah, and congratulations on 20 years. What an exciting year mark, and to have you on this panel right now is wonderful timing.
Hey, thanks. It doesn't feel like 2 decades, but we'll go.
Jessica, do you want to share some insight on this as well?
Yeah, being a student athlete was honestly like an amazing experience at Redlands. It honestly has taught me so much with a lot of different skills that I honestly didn't realize I've learned until I graduated. I was like, oh my gosh, I have all these amazing skills. And also I just felt like I was a part of like a big community and family. The track and field team was very, very close. And so we always supported each other. And I just miss that feeling. So that's what really was really important to me when I was an athlete.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it goes along the lines of, as Billy mentioned, kind of that grit. I know was something that I love talking about with students, but I think when you've got student athletes, that grit is just a part of the core part of the identity of a student athlete. Alex, throwing it to you next.
I mean, Billy said purpose, and it's somewhere in there, and I thought that was a really great way to say it. Being part of Bulldog Athletics gave you purpose. You've got school, right? You've got your roommates, you've got your dorm, you've got to eat a lot generally, but having practice and games to prepare for and get ready to go do gave you purpose. And I think that's sort of, in some ways, the obvious answer, but I think that comes with it is it also gave you a physical place on campus that was different than anywhere else that anybody else had. So, it gets you out of your room. It gives you a sense of ownership over that place. It gives you some place that's not anybody else's. And I didn't really think much about that until today, but I love the Thompson Aquatic Center. I love it. My wife was talking to me the other day. She said, wow, you really love Redlands. And I said, well, have you seen the pool? It's like really a great place to be. And it's not just because it's a nice pool. I think it's everything that goes along with it, right? You spend hours there, hours after hours. And I'm sure, Billy at the baseball field, which is also another beautiful facility, and Jessica at the track facility, which I don't have great memories of the track because we're usually running stairs. But, it probably would say that facility itself has the most lasting impact on my visual memories of the university, because you're there every single year. You move your dorm every year, but you're at the pool every year. And I thought that was a really cool thing. And I think Redlands has done a great job with all of that as well. Facilities are beautiful.
I haven't thought about running stairs in a really long time, but I might have nightmares this evening now, Alex. So thank you for that. I was like, oh, running stairs, man, I've blocked that from my memory. Lauren, anything that you would like to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point that Alex said about, the place where you practice and you compete every day, being a vivid memory. And definitely for me, I think I've met a lot of lifelong friends, people that I'm still very close to today from playing tennis that I probably would have otherwise never met or crossed paths with, just because, with different majors. And so that's just a special connection that I have with our team and the tennis program.
Yeah, a few of you mentioned the lifelong friendships, and it sounds like that's a core for all of you. Outside of kind of developing core friendships and kind of that collaboration piece that a few of you also mentioned. Can you share some examples of how you've applied what you've learned or experienced as a Bulldog athlete in your personal and professional lives after Redlands? Jessica, I'm going to throw this your way first.
So I have many, many experiences. One, I feel like it's just so important is the whole time management and organization that I've learned from being a student athlete, because I had to learn that from the get-go, or I would have failed and wouldn't be able to compete or anything. And so I had to use that a lot when I was working during my gap year while also applying to medical school. I had to learn like determination and motivation and discipline when I was studying for the MCAT during school, and also during like when I was working and everything. And then also I learned a lot of professionalism being an athlete. And I've used that with my interviews for medical school and also for work, and just being in an environment with people that are older than you and have all these degrees and everything. And so, yeah, those are all my experiences.
Thank you, Jessica. I feel like you could just say anything and be like, yes, it applies to being a student athlete. So many skills learned for sure. Billy, any more that you would add to that?
Yeah, certainly. Like Jessica, so many lessons, right? As I was kind of thinking through preparation for this, a couple of key words came to mind. The first one was pressure, right? I think when you play a sport, especially, I'm a little bit biased toward baseball, but the pitcher's mound in the middle of the yard can be a lonely place, right? And at times that pressure can be real. General MacArthur famously said, "You on the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that on other days you'll find utility for," right? And so I think as you kind of embrace that experience and really learn on the field how to handle things like pressure, it pays dividends down the road. Now, I won't go into a crazy war story, but I will tell you there was a time in Afghanistan where we were driving through a town and we got stopped in traffic, right, which is an uncomfortable place to be, right? We were on a convoy from one place to another, and we really got gridlocked into the town, right? And there was a bunch of people running around, and it started to turn into a really uncomfortable situation. And I'm not making this up when I say that my first thought was, I've been here before. This is like the seventh inning of a game against Kowloon, right? I'm dead serious, right? So there's universal applicability in a lot of those lessons that really do carry over in ways that you didn't anticipate. In addition to that, though, I mean, I think you learn how to succeed and you learn how to fail, right? And both of those are just critically important to everything you do in life, right? When you're on the field, you're going to take chances, but they call them chances for a reason. And sometimes those chances aren't going to pan out. And I think there is something to be said for knowing how to pull yourself up by the bootstraps after you have tried and not succeeded, only to come back stronger on the other side of that, right? And I think as an athlete, you learn those skills in spades.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Billy. I got chills thinking about you being stopped, and I love that that's what ran through your mind is, we've been here before, we can do this. I got to tell you, if you Google me, an athlete, you will only find my greatest success was once under pressure. I made a penalty stroke when we were down and in a championship game, but that's the only thing you will ever learn about my athletic experience. I had one moment. But that moment comes back to me when I'm feeling anxious. It's like I've been here under pressure, and I can do this. I appreciate you sharing
trade
that.
Moments? Can we go back to the win?
Lauren, lessons you've learned.
Yeah, kind of along the same lines as pressure, but everyone's super competitive, and that desire to win brings out a lot of emotion. So, I'll admit, and I see Coach Roach on, and my dad, he's on too. So I was a hothead when I played tennis and competed. But I think one thing I took away was when you just focus on a task at hand and just have a positive attitude toward completing that task, like hitting to your opponent's backhand or just closing out at the net. It just led to better results in matches. So, I take that with me in my professional life and positive attitude when I'm working with customers, even though sometimes it doesn't go the way you expect. And also my personal life too. So I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and when I thank you, when I think about growing with my fiance, growing together, just making sure that we're respectful and we just have that positive attitude when really planning for a wedding or working with each other. So
Well, congratulations to you on your upcoming wedding. And definitely planning a wedding is stressful. So I'm sure you're using a lot of those skills you learned as an athlete to manage planning a wedding in a pandemic, no less. Alex, any additional lessons you'd share?
First, Kelly, I did Google your name. So, and it does say more than what you told us. For those who don't know, Kelly was named to the National Academic Team for East Stroudsburg University. So she's selling herself short. We won't let her do that again. Also, if you guys tell me to Google anything anymore, just know I'm going to Google it. Let's see. Anything to add? I will add that the difference between a D1 and a D3 program was really lasting to me. I know a lot of people who went and played D1 sports, and Ryan Hall, who's on this call, is one of them. And when we talk about our college years, either Ryan and I or me and some other people who played D1, one thing that's really clear is that their experience was a lot different than ours, and it was no more competitive. It was no more exciting. It was no more fun. But it was a lot more obligation from a time perspective. And so one thing that I loved about D3 was that you had so much time outside of your sport to pursue academics, to make friends, to make memories, to ingrain yourself in the local community, whatever it might be. But my big point here is that it meant that Redlands was opt-in, and you didn't feel an obligation. I didn't go to high school and I was like, oh, I'm going to Berkeley. I really feel like I have to play water polo. Like I can't do it. And it's just so much pressure. So this idea that I was opt-in really kind of set a theme for the rest of my life, that I'm opting into this community. I need to deliver on that commitment. It's all the themes that you guys had already talked about. But I think the difference between this and a D1 program is more often than not, students are selecting to do this for a real purpose. And I think that that's really cool. That's passion, that's fun, that's to fill time. And I would say that to any prospective student trying to decide between a D1 and a D3 program, and I think it's really important to say here in front of this group.
Thank you, Alex. And yes, everybody be careful. You might get Googled. And your comments about it being opt-in, I really appreciate that. And I think it ties in nicely, whether intentional or not, to our next question, which is, when thinking about your academic journey at Redlands, what unique value do you feel you gained from earning your degrees, specifically at a liberal arts institution? What is something perhaps that you took from your coursework that you use in your work today? And Lauren, I'm going to throw this over to you first to hear more about how you're using this at Esri.
Sure. Well, definitely, I was able to take other classes outside of my major, and that's actually how I was introduced to Esri and taking a GIS introduction class. And even though it was freshman year and I didn't know what I was going to do after graduating. When I look back, I was like, oh, that was pretty helpful and cool to know. And also the opportunity to study abroad in Spain for 6 months and still play tennis and graduate in 4 years. I think that's a really unique opportunity that Redlands gave me.
Absolutely, yeah. The ability to balance a lot of different things and still get out in 4 years is fantastic. Alex, additional things from you?
I mean, a lot like Billy, I kind of took a different path from, where I was at school. And I think that to me, that's something I'm really proud of. I studied international relations. I'm a sports TV producer. There's almost literally zero crossover between my academic studies and what I do for a job on the surface. But, to me, it was all about, I chose international relations because it gave me an opportunity to study things that I enjoyed. I wanted to learn about it. I got to take classes that I enjoyed. It wasn't about what I wanted to do after. Not that I knew what I wanted to do after, or that many students know what they want to do after. But I think it fostered a sense of enjoyment and enjoy what you do and spend time enjoying what you do. And I would say that that's translated to my career. It's sort of a fluffy answer, but it's true. I'm pretty in love with what I do for a job. I do it because it's fun. I don't do it because it pays me a lot, which it doesn't. But I don't do it because it gets me any fame, which it doesn't. It just is something I want to do. And I think in my life, in my career, in my school, just doing what I want to do has really worked out well for me, because it's meant that what I end up selecting is something that I enjoy. And it kind of goes back into the opt-in conversation earlier, right? Like, why are we doing something? And that's the liberal arts education is kind of all about that, isn't it? Right? Select your path, choose what you want, get a varied education.
Yeah, I love a lot of what you just shared. I mean, the one thing on the surface, nothing really was exactly looked the same, but underneath the surface, a lot of the skills and things that you were learning and taking advantage of, and even the lesson of like opting in, is something that you use daily now. So I don't think that was a fluffy answer. I think that was a great answer. Jessica, thoughts from you on this one?
For me, I feel like getting a degree from a liberal arts school, you have a really kind of well-rounded background because of all the LAFs we have to take. I don't know what they're called now. I think they're changed, but just taking different types of classes that are not with your major and able to just get another perspective and experience was really cool to me. I also was able to study abroad in Spain, in Granada, Spain. And that was just such an amazing experience to have. I learned so much about different cultures and like religion, and just it really helped me grow and opens my mind to just different perspectives. And I take that with me, like when I'm dealing with different types of patients with my doctor I work with, because patients come from everywhere. And so it's really cool to be able to like speak Spanish to them and like understand their background or understand their religion and all that stuff. So it gets that trust and that just good feeling between patient. And since I want to be a doctor, that's going to really help in my future.
Yeah, great examples. It is kind of interesting to me to look at all four of your career paths are all very, very different. But the core, when you think about some of the skills and things that you share that you're using, that you've gained from both athletics and a liberal arts institution, it's neat to see kind of where there's a lot of overlap. And Billy, I'd love to hear your perspective kind of within the military. What does that look like?
Yeah, I love this question, first of all. I was a Bachelor of Science and Computer Science major when I was at U of R. And people thought I was kind of crazy going for a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science at a liberal arts college, right? Back then. It wasn't the norm by far. But as I've kind of worked through my career, and we focused on the development of cyberspace, but then really the development of a cyber society, right? And all of the aspects of people connecting in this new and unique way. I mean, look at what we're doing tonight, right? There's an awful lot more than learning how to write code, right? There's anthropology and sociology and psychology and government relations and and international relations, and all of this comes into play when you talk about the connectivity that is our digital world. And so I was so thankful. It was completely by accident when I was a kid that I fell into that category. But I was so thankful, right, that I had that opportunity, even if it was slightly by accident, because things have come together in the last 20 years for me to focus very much on those other aspects. And I haven't written a single line of computer code since I left, right? But without that firm foundation, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. And I got to give a huge shout out to Pani Chakrapani in the computer science department. I think he's still there. At least he was a couple of years ago. He had a lot of patience with me, and also a lot of patience with my devotion to the baseball team as well. So I'm ever grateful for that.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing those thoughtful answers. I think the core there is the foundation that it provided, both in terms of athletics and the liberal arts component. Our next question is a long one, so bear with me here. But April, as you know, is the university's month of meaning, the joy of giving back to Redlands. And we're also in the midst of the ambitious campaign for athletics to address 3 critical athletic facility projects for Bulldog Athletics. You've each made the decision to give back to Redlands, whether through your time, your talent, or through philanthropic gifts. Why have you made the decision to give back to your alma mater, and what would you say to encourage others to give back to Redlands as you have? And I'm going to throw it over to Alex to kick us off.
I don't really have a great answer to this one. To be perfectly honest with you, I wish I did. I'm here, and I'm thrilled to be here. And I thought about this before we got on, and I suppose it comes back to what I was saying earlier about being part of a community and having opted into a community 20 years ago, nearly now. And I suppose I made the choice then. There have been some years where I haven't participated much, and I think some of that's geographic proximity, although I have no excuse because Billy's in Maryland and Jessica's in Las Vegas. But it's, there's things that get in the way in life. And I talked to Ryan Hall a lot and Jeff Martinez a little bit last year about getting back involved. And I was just really excited as I started to talk about it. I don't know really what that meant. Does that mean giving money? I mean, I'm sure, I guess, happy to see what I can do there. Does that mean giving time? I think there's a question of where you can give time. I think a lot of alumni probably are curious about that. But I think it's just mostly nice to find opportunities to connect with people. It's great to see Jeff Martinez's face. It's great to see Ryan Hall here and Tom and Leslie's names. And my old roommate is on, who I actually haven't talked to in 8 years. So this is thrilling. And so I think almost for personal selfish reasons, it's just nice to come back and reconnect. And if part of that is giving time, if part of that is giving money, then that's a very small price to pay. And it's more than, and probably more than anything, it's nice to hear everybody else's stories because it makes me remember what I loved about it. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for sharing that. I know the opportunity to connect and that opt-in just keeps flowing along. I know I was asked recently it was right before the pandemic. I was in Pennsylvania and they were having an alumni tournament with the current ESU athletes. And I thought, yeah, I can hang. I can play field hockey like I used to. I haven't picked up a stick in ages because on the West Coast, y'all don't have field hockey. everywhere, so I can't join adult leagues. And I ended up faking an asthma attack because I learned I cannot play. And I was like heaving. I was just like, it's asthma. Somebody gave me an inhaler. I was like, I don't really have it, but I was so embarrassed that I couldn't hang even with the other alumni. So sometimes giving back in that way, I've learned, is not for me. Billy, I see you kind of popping up on my screen first. What are some of your thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. The reasons to give back, right? I mean, you look at the current team that's out there now on the baseball program with Coach Aaron Hawley and those guys, and the work that they've done through the pandemic. And I know some other folks here have graduated during that time, and what a challenging time, right? So if we can help that in some way, that's in and of itself worth it, right? But I've also had the opportunity being here in DC for like the last 6 years. We've hosted some of the Hunsaker scholars as they've come through, and we've had an opportunity to take them through the Pentagon. What a cool opportunity just to connect across generations with Bulldogs, right? I saw a name pop up on here, Kyle Kayberry, recent graduate from University of Redlands, two-sport athlete. Played football and baseball, was a superstar in high school in Southern California, and then went to U of R and crushed it there. Kyle is now in the Air Force. He enlisted in the Air Force. I think right now, if I know right, I think he's in Japan, and he is a firefighter. But he just was selected. Well, he went through the second round of selection to go become a special forces officer. Which means he's going to work on the Air Force side with the Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, the most elite of the elite. And you talk about a guy who should be on this panel. Next time you do it, Kyle's the guy. But we connected through our relationship with the University of Redlands. Kelly Cooper, who a lot of people know, field management extraordinaire, hooked us up after Kyle graduated, and we've been in touch ever since. It's relationships like those, right? If you're giving back financially, great, because our university needs it. But if you're staying connected emotionally, I think you really have an opportunity to shape folks across generations.
Billy, thank you for sharing that. I couldn't agree more about that piece of the connection and the mentorship. And I would say for all of you, I'm going to plug Alumni Fire. If you haven't heard of it, please join. It is where we encourage students to go to reach out to alumni who are willing to have those conversations, and students can search based on athletic teams that they play, and that you can fill out your profile to share what you were involved in when you were at the U of R, so that people can identify you by common interests. And that's something we'd love for all of you to be in. And if you're willing to give of your time to current students and or other alumni, that's a great place to do so. Jessica, I'm curious, if you are our most recent graduate, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this question.
Yes, I've only been alumni for a year now, because my graduation was April 17th of last year, so it's been a year. But I haven't been able to give back a lot because of the pandemic and everything, and I was just a newly graduate. But in the future, I would really love to give back with time and mentorship with medicine and the path of becoming a doctor, because it's really grueling, it's really hard, and a lot of people kind of lose their way. And so I would like to be there to help kind of raise people up from Redlands, and give them the do's and do nots and all that stuff on their path to medicine. So that's what I'd like to do.
When I would say you already are giving back, being here, your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you giving back today and being here with us. Lauren, any thoughts from you on this question?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone covered most of the points, and the tennis program has held a very special place in my heart, and it always will. And I'm really grateful for the experience I had at Redlands with some great coaches, and and mentorship from others. And so, I'd love to give back through trying to mentor other people or, provide support for those. And, it's just a really tight knit community, and it's so unique. Professors that teach your class and they come and support your tennis match. Not I feel like not a lot of kids can say that. So yeah, I just want like future generations to have that great experience that we all did.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. All right. Well, I have a couple other questions, but I'm also curious because you all are here and wondering if folks have questions. If you do have questions that you would like to ask our wonderful panelists, I think we're small enough that you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can also throw it in the chat. I will give a minute or two. If not, I will keep going, but I want to make sure you all have an opportunity to ask questions. All right, as we wait for questions, I'm curious for each of you, and this one could be a little, I'm going to say narrow it to one piece of advice. One piece of advice you would offer to current students as they prepare for what life looks like after Redlands. And this is particularly timely since we are coming right up on graduation next week. I'm going to throw it over to Lauren to start us off on this one.
Okay. My one piece of advice would be that sometimes the transition from college to work in the real world can be overwhelming, but just to do your best and things will be okay. And I know when I first started working right after graduation, I felt like there was an expectation to know everything all at once at my job. And, you'll have an objective and not know how to achieve it at first. And that might be really overwhelming, but just know that it's okay it's overwhelming, but it's not a bad thing. And it's just another opportunity to grow and adapt. And if you keep adapting, you'll be more valuable as an employee. And so just take it one step at a time.
Awesome. Yes, one step at a time. I think also probably something you learned on the courts as well. One step at a time. Jessica, one piece of advice from you.
My advice would be perseverance. I think that you can honestly do whatever you put your mind to, and Redlands gave you a degree, so you have honestly the world at your feet. And so if you want to be a CEO, try to be a CEO, and if you want to be a doctor like me, be a doctor. So because I remember in the beginning I was kind of like weaning out the fact. I was like, should I be one, or should I just be a nurse, or should I don't know. But then I made up my mind and I was like, you can do it. And so for all of the fellow students, you can do it and just put your mind to it. It'll work out.
Great advice. Aim high, right? All right. Billy.
Right along those same lines as Jessica, I thought that was a great piece of advice. What I would recommend is steer clear of mediocrity, right? Take chances, like I kind of alluded to earlier. If your highs are high and your lows are low, that probably means you're taking your swings, right? And you're taking those opportunities, and you're not going to win them all. But when you do, it's gonna, you're gonna obviously enjoy those moments. And I think what Redlands really gives you is the opportunity to build that base and foundation to absorb the chances that you take that don't necessarily work out, but really gives you the skills to succeed more often than not, right? So I think that would be the biggest recommendation I'd give.
Yeah, that steer clear of mediocrity. I feel like that is something Since I was a little kid, my father had framed right above my crib a quote that said, "Opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like hard work." And I feel like that steer clear of mediocrity feels very similar to me. All right, Alex, finish us off with a piece of advice from you.
Be memorable, and I think that could be something. I don't think it could be. I think it is something different for everybody. If that's being kind when you first meet somebody that you after school at an interview, be memorable for being kind. Be yourself, and if you're not yourself, you're probably going to be not that, you're not going to stick out, and you're not going to be passionate about what you're saying. So I kind of, there's been times in my life, and I related a little bit to what Lauren was saying about feeling pressure, getting out of school and getting into a workplace. And I think that translates to any new workplace. I'm sure that translates to Billy going to a new post, even though, it's fairly regimented. I think like you get in somewhere, you feel pressure. And to me, as long as you're, being yourself and passionate about what you're doing, you're going to create a lasting impact. People are going to help you out. They're going to come back to you for advice. And it just becomes this circle. Mostly, you're probably going to enjoy it a lot more if you're not trying to pretend to be somebody else.
Thank you, Alex. I love that. Be memorable. I didn't share this at the start, but I take notes whenever I do a panel, and I make little snippets of comments that stand out to me. And you all have had a few snippets, but that be memorable, I put in bold, italics, and underlined. So I like that a lot. Thank you, Alex. We've got some questions in the chat, and this is a quick one. So we'll do Rachel's. Who was your biggest mentor at Redlands? Jessica, start us off.
I think my biggest mentor was my advisor for I think it's my pre-health advisor. She's been with me since I was freshman year, a little bit freshman, and just really helped me to shape who I am and what classes to take, and saying you can do this and everything, and help me, be on my journey to medicine. So, and that's Dr. Silvera, Linda Silvera. Love her.
Oh, Linda's fantastic. Thank you, Jessica. And we'll let them know that you said it. So we'll pass it on. Lauren, biggest mentor.
Well, my biggest mentor is on the call, Coach Roach. So, I started off as a freshman and not really knowing if I just wanted to play tennis, and he helped, develop my game, and he's always there anytime I needed to talk. You can always rely on Coach to just make time to listen to me and give me some advice and guide me. So thanks, Coach.
Awesome. I'm glad Coach is here and gets to hear it. Alex.
There's an obvious answer, and that's Tom Whittemore. He's on. I think he has to hop in a second, but and then for all the reasons you'd expect your coach to be your mentor, right? He doesn't need to know from me why. He's well aware of that, and I think everybody who has a coach probably understands that relationship. But then I would say that there's pockets of influence with this close-knit nature of all your classes and all your departments. Like there's just these moments that I remember from professors that have a profound impact on me. And I think my regret is that I haven't told them that, because I'm going to go back to my freshman seminar professor and say, by the way, one of my first weeks at school, I still think about what you had to tell us about learning about other cultures and traveling and being respectful and understanding of other people's beliefs. And I probably should, now that I say that out loud. So I'm going to cop out and give you two answers, Tom, and then the smattering of other professors who have had influence over the rest of my life.
Thank you, Alex. Billy, I know you shared somebody earlier. Is there anybody else you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I've got two because I'm just going to break rules and give two. That's why. But the first one is exactly what I said, Professor Pani Chakrapani. Right. I think there's two kinds of computer science students in the world. Right. One is the guy who sits down at the lab, sees the assignment, bangs out the code, hits enter, everything works, and they walk away. Right. I'm the guy sitting next to them who's been there watching that guy come in 3 or 4 times. Right. I was not a gifted programmer, and he had the patience of Job to walk me through that program and really, see that I graduated in 4 years. Fantastic professor and fantastic human. But I would also add Coach Scott Laverty, who was my coach for the duration of the time after Coach Miller retired. Just recently, during this pandemic, we had our 12-year-old baseball team that my son plays for on a call just like this, where Coach Laverty talked about his road to the national championship with Chapman University, where he coaches now, right? So he talked to our 12-year-olds out here in Maryland, a group of them, about what it takes to succeed as a baseball player. That's mentorship in real life, right? So both of them, and then I would also just throw in every teammate and some lifelong friends. No matter where you are in the chain, that's you gain a lot from those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just the coaches and the faculty; it's the folks you're surrounded with every day. We've got two other questions in here. This one I'm intrigued by, mainly because we talked about how you can't have success without failure, right? So I always like to hear about failure. That sounds terrible. What was your biggest failure as a student athlete at the U of R, or something you wish you could change, and how has this shaped your decisions in your career and your personal life? And I'm going to throw it back over to Billy first.
Mine's already Googleable. We already talked. It's very easy to go find. No, as just right off the top of my head, I think about the first time I was given an opportunity to start a game, right, as a pitcher. Coach told me the day before, "Hey, you've got the ball tomorrow." And I stayed up that night fretting, right? I was nervous, I was worried, and I had all of the negative thoughts of, oh my gosh, don't blow this, was my mental approach, right? This is an opportunity, don't blow it, right? And I did, right? I went out the next day. No, I don't know. I don't even know how the game turned out. But I do know that approach, and kind of that experience of walking through that approach changed things for me. There's a big difference between saying, don't throw a ball, and saying to yourself, throw your best pitch, right? Throw a strike, right? And that translates into life, right? And I feel like just, based on kind of those grinding moments, been able to take that approach in a positive direction, right? Shoot for the goals you want to attain. Don't be afraid of the things that might not work out, right? And so that's probably not isolated to one moment, but certainly a mentality that I kind of had to grind through and work through during that first period as a college athlete.
Yeah, thank you, Billy. I appreciate that. It's like it's a mindset shift, kind of. Yeah, absolutely. Lauren, what about you? Biggest failure and how it shaped you?
Mine is a literal failure academically, so it's a little bit embarrassing, but I did fail calculus during my time at Redlands, and I retook it, but I did learn to ask for help. I was coming out of high school, I already took calculus, no problem, and for lots of reasons I failed. But I did learn, like, next time around I'm gonna ask for help. I'm gonna get a tutor, and it's okay to reach out and lean on other people to help you out. So
Yeah, and what an important lesson to learn is the ability to reach out and ask for support and help, which I think as athletes sometimes we may not be the best at doing. I know I can relate to that, and thank you for sharing that with us. All right, Jessica.
One of my biggest failures as a student athlete was when I didn't qualify for internationals my junior year. And I went the year before, my sophomore year, and I just got back from abroad. And so I was kind of a little behind with everybody else in training and everything. And so I was like, I got this. Like, I'm going to, try to catch up with everybody and try to qualify. And so my first meet to qualify, I ran very slow. And so we only get two chances. And so my second time, I got hurt before I got to go. So, what I really learned was just to be really patient with myself and like listen to my body because I was not ready. Um, and so I just had to get in the right mindset and saying like you have outdoor season, so just focus on that, get healthy and everything. And so I was able to go to nationals for outdoor, but that was determination and being patient and waiting for my time. So
Thank you, Jessica, for sharing that. And I think also how you turned it around, right? And speaks to exactly the beauty in my mind of failure is good comes from that. Alex, what about you? Biggest failure?
This is a tough one. I made a big mistake heading into my senior year that affected a lot of personal relationships inside of our water polo community. It wasn't good. It taught me the reality of consequences outside of a controlled environment at home, right? You spend your whole life growing up with your family and your parents, and you understand how that world works. You come to Redlands, you're independent, you're doing things on your own, and now you're really facing the consequences of your own actions in a really personal way. Not that you wouldn't back at home, but I was suspended from the water polo team. I wasn't allowed to go to water polo games to watch. Conversations with Tom Whittemore were not fun to say the least. But I think that the beauty of the whole thing was that Redlands, given its size and the way we all work with each other, gives everyone space to work through things, right? It gives your coach space to talk to you. It gives your professor space to work with you. It gives your advisor space to spend time with you and understand what you're doing. It gives you space to work through things. So, how does it affect the rest of my life? I mean, I suppose it showed me how fragile a community can be. It showed me the value of, of owning your mistakes. But it also showed me forgiveness and how to work through it and how to find a road on the other side. And I don't think that that's possible at a large school or perhaps many other schools, but Redlands.
Thank you, Alex. Great lessons learned for sure. And it ties back again to the beauty of a small school and the beauty of Redlands. All right, we have one more question in here. I think we have time for this. Rachel, you can tell me no if okay. Do younger people or other folks look up to your example, what you've accomplished as a student and as an athlete? I'm going to throw it over to Billy to kick us off.
Well, I hope so. I love the game of baseball, right? I guess that's just a silly thing that's just kind of endured. All art, maybe, that's something that I've just kind of carried with me. Now, I've literally coached baseball every single year since I left Redlands. So 20 years in the military. I coached a youth team in Germany, and I've coached teams all over the U.S. Almost made it to the Little League World Series one time with the team from Germany. So tons of fun, right? And so I think it's that combination of the professional upbringing that you get at a school like Redlands, but also that vehicle of athletics that allows you to be impactful, and kind of grow and nurture those lessons through a sport. What a unique opportunity, right? So I think so. I have, so now a lot of those folks that I started coaching as little kids when I graduated from college are in college now, right? And some of them are playing sports, and so they'll reach out on Facebook or LinkedIn and say, "You might not remember me. I'm, the 7-year-old from a bunch of years ago, but I remember them all, right?" And it's just kind of a unique opportunity that this experience really afforded.
Thank you, Billy, for sharing that. And, I would say younger people or not, I think just hearing each of your stories, I look up to each of you. I think you've shared some great examples of how you are taking the experiences that you had at Redlands and in athletics and applying them to your life. And I think all of you would be people I'd want to hang out with more and learn from. So I'm probably biased, but I would say yes, y'all are pretty great. And Alex, you've got a question, so I'm going to throw it over to you to maybe share some thoughts on that question, and then you can ask your next one.
Oh yeah, I don't have an answer to that question. My question is, I want to ask Billy a question since we're here. I'm pretty fascinated by where you're at in the military. I think it doesn't take a genius to know that it's probably about as important as it gets right now in 21st century. Do you feel like you're under more pressure being in cybersecurity than perhaps other colleagues in other divisions and organizations? And do you, maybe more better said, do you feel like a sense of place in time that, hey, what you're doing right now will probably be something that we talk about years from now?
Not to derail it too much, but I would go back to a quote from Michael Jordan, keeping it on the athletics panel idea, where he said, "Pressure is earned," right? So if you find yourself in a position where you're under pressure, and think about this from an athletic perspective, that means you worked hard to get to the moment where your team trusts you with the ball at the key moment, right? And that's when you're going to feel pressure, right? And so I kind of subscribe to the mentality that pressure is earned. We work in a high stakes business right now, and everything we do is under the microscope, and a lot of it involves, presidential level approvals and things like that. But that's an opportunity, right? Hard work remains to be done, and someone has to do it. Why not me? That's a quote from my grandpa, right? So I just kind of feel fortunate to be in the position where we do have that pressure and the opportunity. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation that we could take in a million different directions about the work we're doing at Cyber Command. But yeah, thanks, Alex. Appreciate you throwing me on the spot.
I love that, and I feel like that is fantastic. Hard work needs to be done, and why not me? That was your grandpa, Billy?
You bet. He built the house I grew up in when I was 5 years old, literally with his two hands. And he said, "Hard work remains to be finished, and someone has to do it. Why not me?"
I might just have to share that one with my dad. He'll love that quote. We had on our fridge, "Drees' work hard my whole life." That was that was the quote to beat. Well, I think we are at time and have answered the questions. Thank you all so much. And you've got some kudos going on the chat. Thank you for being here tonight to share your stories with us. Really, really appreciate you. And yes, Jeff, proud day to be a Bulldog.
Thank you all so much for coming and being a part of this event. Like I said earlier, it's the first event with our newest iteration of the Bulldog Bench, and we look forward to hosting more opportunities in the future. Thanks to Tracy in the background, who's helping us technology-wise and logistics-wise. Thank you, Kelly, for your time and moderation of this event. And of course, thank you to the panelists for sharing some insights and some personal stories. It's been an absolute joy to be with you this evening. Thank you all.